So I am sitting here watching these people trying to back this big ass toy hauling fifth wheel into this spot. I mean, this thing is an absolute monster. 2 doors, so it's got the rear door and then it's got the side porch, I think. The more stuff you have, the more complicated life gets. He is pulled in here and backed out of here about 5 times, maybe 6. I'm not really for sure, but this thing is a Jayco seismic. He's hauling it with a dually, and they absolutely cannot figure out how to get this monstrosity into this spot. That's one of the biggest reasons why I always wanted to be fairly small, fairly lightweight, so that I would never have that problem. Because just watching them just trying to figure out how to park the damn thing, it's brutal. I mean, it's a beautiful rig, absolutely gorgeous rig, but holy shit, it is so big. Yeah, that's what she said. Okay, it is now 5:26. They've been here for about an hour and a half, and they still don't have it leveled out yet. They're still over there working on it. That's freaking nuts. Can you hear the hydraulic motors doing their thing? Good Lord. Okay, so that kind of brings me to a topic that I figured, maybe we should have a chat about. Like, I am not bagging on anyone that has larger rigs. And I do believe that most people kind of go through a process, because I know that when me and my ex-girlfriend, when we first started looking at campers to buy, we immediately were drawn to the bigger, nicer, more well-equipped rigs. I specifically recall us looking at one of the Grand Design M-Class toy haulers, just, huge, massive, absolutely gorgeous. Every accoutrement was available to us, but eventually what ended up happening is that we kind of realized that we wanted to have more freedom, right? And I really do believe that, the more stuff you have, when you have a lot of gear, whether that be in hiking, whether that be, how much stuff do you have in your house, how big is your house, how big is your truck, how big is you lose the ability to have mobility. You almost kind of have to strike a balance for yourself personally. When you are trying to gauge what you're going to like in a rig, it really does kind of take some trial and error. So if you're just starting out, don't put anything off the table. Unfortunately, because it does take trial and error, there's a really good chance that more than a few of you are going to get something, test it out for maybe a season, and then you probably end up trading it in or selling it and getting something else. In the end, we picked this mainly because of its durability. The aluminum skin trailers just tend to hold their value, and they also have that longevity thing going for them. Everything else was slightly secondary, but the smaller the rig is, you're able to get into state, national parks. Hell, you're even allowed to get into many of the county parks, the wildlife management areas, the preserves, the water management areas here in Florida. They do have size restrictions at a lot of these places, and the bigger you go, while you have more room to spread out inside, you don't have near the amount of room to spread out outside. You start to limit your choices of where you can go, where you can park, how long you can stay there without drawing attention to yourself. So I do think that size is very restrictive when it comes to how large your rig is. And if you are wanting more freedom, more flexibility, more ability to go to different places, there's a really good chance that you're going to have to move down in size. That's the reason a lot of people these days are hashtag van life, because they're very inconspicuous and the size is much smaller, so they're able to be in more places without anyone noticing. They have more freedom. They have a whole lot less room to spread out on the inside, but they have a whole lot more options on where they can be on the outside. So it really is basically a compromise between what do you want? Do you want the ability to go more places? Do you want the ability to get into more places? Or do you want to have a whole lot of space on the inside of your rig, but you can only go to a few places? And that's going to be personal, and it's going to be individual to every single person that decides to take up this lifestyle, and you're going to have to do it and then evaluate it. And then, like I said, there's probably a really good chance that you're going to either go, oh my God, I really wanted to live in a 14-foot teardrop, but I just can't do it. And then you'll end up getting, like a 24 or 25-foot rig. So I felt like this box size was the perfect size. But perfect is also a relative term. Perfect to me is probably not going to be perfect for you. Perfect for you is probably not going to be perfect for me. But I found that this size is a good balance. It's a perfect balance. I'll say that. It's the perfect balance between having enough room so that you can have some things, above and beyond just what you absolutely need. And it was also small enough that I could still get into every single state park, I could still get into every single national forest, and I wouldn't have to worry about, well, is my rig going to fit? Yes, it is. It's going to fit in all those places. So I highly, highly encourage every single person out there, if you're deciding on whether or not to do this full time, take a good, long, hard look at roughly the 20-foot to the 30-foot range. And then slowly work your way into the middle area. Sometimes you might think, yeah, I could get away with, say, like a 19-footer or, a 17-footer. And to a lot of people, that might be the ideal amount of space. And then you get these other people who are like, no, there's no way. I could never live in anything smaller than 30 feet. But then once they get moved in and they live in it for a little while, they start to realize that, hey, man, I've got like 3 or 4 empty closets in here, or I've got 10 empty drawers, and I don't really need anything in those drawers. It's in those aha moments that is the perfect time to start evaluating your stuff, going, do I really need it? Is it really needed? And once you get to that point and you start realizing that you've got empty cabinets, you've got empty drawers, and you've got empty closets, is probably a good indication that you should probably downsize because you don't need all of that space. Or just the opposite is when you're in a very, very small space and you're just like, I absolutely need this and I have no place to put it. Then, in those situations, that's a good opportunity to start maybe looking at something just a tad bit bigger. But I do think that it does take a brief evaluation period. I think that it usually takes roughly about a month or two to really kind of start acclimating to that space full time before you know, yep, I need this, definitely don't need that, and I could probably have some finagle room somewhere in the middle. And of course, price is always going to be a major contributing factor into what you're going to get yourself into. So when it basically came down to what size we roughly wanted, we were like, okay, roughly 30 feet, maybe less, but right in that area. Then it came down to price. So we could have bought, an Airstream, but we were going to pay 4 or 5 times more what we paid for this thing. So, it was just kind of a no-brainer. I could spend 5 times for an Airstream or get an Avion, which is built just as good. And in some cases better because you don't have to remove the whole shell off the frame to work on your subfloor in an Avion. Some of you probably didn't know that. But yeah, the Avions, they're gusseted, so the whole shell wraps up and underneath the frame, so you still have perfect and complete access to the subfloor without having to remove the shell. So needless to say, that was a big, big selling point for us. At any rate, I just wanted to ramble on a little bit about, size requirements. I know some of you are size queens, and some of you are just like, I don't really care. It's little, and I'm perfectly comfortable with it. Thanks again for watching yet another riveting episode of Avion Awesome here on the channel, and I'm going to see you guys again on the next one. Peace out.